That's a really great. My cooking room. My dressing gown. What a great day, huh? You made a great.
I muted. What's happening with volume here?
But you know what? I'm gonna. Mom, did you take your pills?
Yep.
Hello, everyone. I'm going to give Maureen a minute. Can you guys hear me? You can. Okay, good. Monica is not going to be able to join us. If she can join us, it'll be later on in the meeting. There we go. All right, let's get started. So welcome everybody.
Julie, I can't hear you.
Can't?
I can hear you.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Why is this happening?
I can hear you fine. Want me to try again? It shows me as speaking.
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay. Okay, so welcome everyone. I hope this finds everyone well. This is a regular meeting of the Code Enforcement Advisory Committee on November 18th, 2020. Calling it to order. I'm going to go ahead and do roll call. This is Julie Bowden. If you would just say here when I call your name, please. Colleen Dickerson.
Here.
Carson Green.
Present.
Sonia Strom. She's mouthing here. We can't hear you, Sonia. And then Cara, if you can just say here.
Here.
Thank you. Okay, now we can try that now, Sonia.
Here.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much. So item number 1 on the agenda is approval of minutes from October 28th. We had an amendment at our last meeting. Would someone, do we need to, I don't think we need to vote on that, do we, Maureen? Since we approved it at the last meeting, we just made the change.
You have not approved the 10:28 minutes.
Got it. Okay, so would someone please move to approve minutes from our October 28th meeting?
I move to approve them.
A second, please.
Approved.
Sonia, thank you. Are there any corrections or discussions? All right, seeing none, let's go ahead and show by raising your hand to approve the minutes for October 28th. Those in favor, please raise your hand. That looks unanimous. Thank you so much. And the second is consideration of minutes from our last meeting, November 10th, 2020. Would someone please move to approve those?
Approved.
Thank you, Sonia. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Cara. Are there any corrections or discussion? All right. Well, that's it. That's fun. Thank you. So let's please vote by a show of hands. Those in favor to approve the minutes for November 10th as written, please raise your hands. To approve?
Abstaining because I wasn't there.
Got it. Colleen, were you there? Oh, you were there, Colleen. Oh, that's right. You weren't there. Thank you. I forgot.
No, I wasn't there.
For some reason I was thinking that I'd forgotten the 10th was our short notice meeting. So I apologize for that. So it looks like we have unanimous approval of the minutes from myself, Sonia, and Cara. Okay, next on our agenda is the public forum. Maureen, do we have any attendees? We do not. All right, so moving on to agenda item number 4, code enforcement significant events.
Hey, y'all. So just a few quick updates. Can you hear me okay? Because I'm getting a little feedback.
Yes.
I think so. Okay. The first thing and most importantly is we're in the process this week of conducting interviews for the park ranger position. We still are on track to hire shortly after the first of the year. One of the other exciting news is our remote capabilities. We've started transitioning to the new programs and our new GTAC Tough Books. And so we anticipate within the next 30 days to 45 days, we'll be able to access almost all of our programs in the field. This is a huge upgrade. It's something that I've been asking for the last 5 years. We've now been rolled into the budget process as part of our IT replacement program. Most of our computers were up for replacement, so we were able to roll this in. So it will have computers in all of our trucks finally. The new computer program, the RMS program, is live with the police department. Our integration program won't take place again until after the first of the year, and I'll keep you updated as to when that time frame moves forward. If you look at the statistics going through, you can see that grass and weeds and animal control were the two top numbers that we had. We continue to do a lot of proactive enforcement around animal control issues, especially heavily within the parks. As far as the weeds, as you know, our seasonal code enforcement officer is no longer with us. And so this month, traditionally, depending on the weather, we utilize this month to really play catch up and continue our follow-up inspections from what occurred over the summer where we are just so busy. So we're making sure that we're following up with our cases. We're closing out anything that needs to be closed out. And so I hope to have additional statistics towards the end of the year to share with all of you, rounding up what took place and the highlights over the year.
Okay.
Trash and litter, we're noticing that has been a decrease in this particular month. And speaking with some of the trash haulers, several of them have come up with programs or ways to work with constituents who have late bills, or they may not have been cutting off their trash service, and extending those late payment options, just to make sure that our community is still staying safe and healthy. And this is not something that's new here within our community. This is something that's happening along the Front Range with those communities that do have services that citizens can elect to have. Currently, as you know, Inglewood, citizens can choose which trash hauler they have, unlike some of our neighboring communities like Denver or Sheridan, where it's automatically picked up whether you put it out or not. Were there any questions that you had about the statistics or the activities that we've accomplished over the last month?
Colleen?
Yeah, back to the park ranger. Did we ever find out what his duties are and who he reports to?
First and foremost, I would appreciate it if we try and keep that gender neutral. It's going to be the best candidate, whether it's whatever their gender is. As far as the specific park ranger duties, that information had been provided to City Council in their packet during study sessions. And that person will report to me. They are going to be sworn in as a code officer. That is the only way that they can have any type of enforcement powers under our current ordinance. Whether that moves forward and changes with city attorney recommendations, right now the only way that they can issue summons and complaint or have enforcement would be as a park ranger sworn in as a code official.
Great. Carson?
Just what more, a little bit more understanding. I'm not familiar with what the park ranger's job is primarily.
So the park ranger's position is primarily to be a visible deterrent within our parks. They're going to be going around and educating the public on a variety of park rules. And this is something that the Parks and Rec Department had asked for, City Council had asked. I think it's also in alignment with what is occurring nationwide and within our community for police reform, is really taking some of those functions of enforcement within the parks off of the code enforcement officers and off of police, and really making sure that they're out there, making sure that our parks are safe. They're also going to be in charge of managing some of the trees as well as the ecology and natural resources within our parks. They're going to be proficient. As you know, we do have water features in some of our locations, and so they'll be responsible for maintaining and educating the public on proper fishing etiquette, licensing, really just being that all-around person that is an expert on everything to do with what would potentially be parks violations. They'll also be in charge of, if you aren't aware, we frequently have community disputes about pavilions. Police or code enforcement are typically called to those on the weekend. They're really going to be making sure that they're working with the community to make sure those people that have paid for the pavilion are using those, suggesting alternative sites, educating people how to reserve pavilions, and really also being an extra eyes and ears for maintenance. As you all know, we have multiple acres of parks with a lot of amenities. Some of them are kind of getting up there in age, and so it's an opportunity for an extra pair of eyes and ears to, when they do see maintenance concerns, that they can alert the proper people to get those amenities replaced or refurbished.
So will they primarily be like vehicle based and then going around to different parks?
They will be vehicle based and they will be going through different parks. We haven't come up with the logistical statistics as to how that's going to work. Currently it's one park ranger and it will be a rotating schedule. So there will be nights, weekends, holidays, a variety of different shifts that this person would work. This is a pilot program that City Council did approve, and we're going to see how this works out for the community. Again, it is something that the community has been asking for multiple years, and it has proven to be very effective in other communities, especially South Suburban has park rangers, Denver has park rangers, several other communities, and it's a great budget saving tool to utilize long-term rather than paying for the cost and full supplies of a full code official or a full police officer.
Cool. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Colleen?
Yeah, I have one follow-up question. Is that going to be your fourth code enforcement person or your fifth?
This isn't a code enforcement person. This is completely separate.
So you're going to have 4 code enforcement people beside, in addition to you. So there'll be you and 4, right? And then a park ranger?
So yes, and the duties of the park ranger, although they will ultimately, because you can't just have 3 different supervisors telling somebody what to do, their responsibilities are really, and we work hand in hand with the Parks Department already, but this is really going to be more of that liaison between parks enforcement as well as code enforcement.
I just wanted to follow up on, you're fully staffed with 4 yourself, and you're going to have a park ranger, right?
Currently, we're fully staffed, yes.
You are. Oh, I'd heard somebody quit, but that's just rumor.
Yeah, don't listen to Nextdoor. Sometimes that stuff might be a little
I'm
inaccurate.
not on Nextdoor. I've never seen Nextdoor. These were people specifically who told me that.
Yeah, feel free to always reach out to me. I'm happy to answer those questions, but we are fully staffed and nobody anticipates in quitting. I also want to let you know that through the governor's office, we're currently working with dramatic changes in COVID. And so I wanted to let you know that we are considered essential uniform personnel here at the police department. We're not altering most of our enforcement efforts. The way that looks is very different. We are maintaining our social distance. We are trying to provide all documents and stuff through the mail when possible rather than posting. We're trying to eliminate face-to-face interactions unless it is something that is urgent or of an emergency nature. We are still minimizing our touch point access, so we're able to run people without touching identifications. We're able to issue citations without having them sign them. We serve them in person. So we are still maintaining our level of safety. We do have mask requirements when we're not in our specific office setting, when we're in the car, but when we are out interacting with the public, we are required to wear those within any public building. So we are really maintaining those strict guidelines. We want to serve our community. We don't want to become ill, and we definitely do not want to make any members of the public ill.
Thank you.
Dave, a question on animal control. How has the park situation been recently? Has that calmed down a little bit with, you know, animals being off leash and issues that?
So that's a great question. It's kind of it's still really mixed and still a really passionate topic. We are noticing that more people, when we do enforcement, typically scatter like bugs when they see us and they know that we're going to be out there doing enforcement. There are a few people out there that think it's humorous to send out text messages to their friends to avoid enforcement. But for the most part, it's really interesting this week. We've had very positive feedback when we're in the parks. At Bates Logan specifically, we've been approached by several people who have thanked us for our work, for being visible, especially on the weekends. They're really grateful that they're able to be out there and not have animals jumping on them. I believe the city manager has also received recent emails about our efforts in regards to that. So I think it's both sides. We're also seeing a renewed effort in our communities where people are waving at us. They are wanting to try and thank us for the work that we're doing. We are seeing positive feedback from community members thanking us for doing enforcement. So it's nice to hear those positive compliments in a time where we're really struggling as a community under COVID, under the restrictions that we have. That our community is embracing and coming together and really starting to recognize the essential work that we play within our community.
Well, then the timing for the article that's supposed to come out in the next magazine will be, that's a good timing. I also wanted to to make notice of a tweet that was sent out by the city, and it was a reminder for people to, have their dogs on leashes, but the way that it was written was really friendly and lighthearted. And I'm a dog owner, and I keep my puppy on the leash. But it was non-threatening, and it really kind of sold why you should keep your dog on a leash. And I thought that they did a really nice job with that.
I'll give that feedback back to Chris.
Yeah.
The strategy that we've all come up with, especially with your communication team, which has been great to work with on upcoming issues,
Right.
it is really trying to highlight the positive aspects. And we're not there to issue citations. We're not there to make people's lives miserable. We're there to educate them. We're there to play a vital role that is needed. Without our services, we have potential to have safety and health issues within our city. And you all know, reading the code and seeing the statistics, what kind of contribution the code enforcement team makes to this city.
Colleen, you had a question?
Yeah, I wanted to know when the new software will be up and running, and when we'll know if we can get more detailed information so that we can make more informed decisions about code.
I don't have that information about the process or that program. I guess I have to ask, because I know you've asked several weeks as to what would you be using certain information for? I know in the past you've asked for information, or people have asked for information more as an oversight committee rather than an advisory committee. So I guess I don't understand what information you're seeking. We're providing the types of cases. I mean, this is a report that's approved by the city manager. We're providing the type of cases that we're opening, the type of activities that we're conducting, and we're sharing that information openly, not just with this committee, but with city council, and it's posted on the website, so the public even has the information.
Well, we used to be able to get, even with the old software, the number of dogs off leash, the number of strays, the number of impoundments, the number of summons and complaints issued on any category of code. And we're not seeing that. We're just seeing a blanket number now. And
So this is the information that I have been authorized to provide, and that's
I understand that. We
case.
used to get it. And
Right.
I was just wondering if we're going to be able to get it, because I remember when Tim Englert was still our liaison, he said that we should be able to get that information with new software.
Dave, you
And I
mentioned-
don't
used to
think
get
Tim, yeah, and I'm
So
not sure
I-
Tim was really knew what the new software was capable of. It was not rolled out when he was still here, and the police are still adjusting to that. So again, you're going to have to wait and see. I'm not even trained on this, so I don't know what information can or will be able to be provided.
Okay,
But you're always more than welcome to ask the courts for any of the summons information. That's just not something I have available to me or can provide.
okay.
Any other questions for Supervisor Lewis? All right, thank you very much, Dave. So we'll move on to agenda item number 5, update from City Council Liaison Russell. Rita Russell.
Thank you very much. I don't know how long this is going to last because you all freeze. I think that it's my internet connection that's unstable. But anyway, thank you to Code Enforcement Supervisor Lewis for the update. And the one thing I wanted to share about that is we got a notice this past week from Waste Management that now, instead of, we need to fill up our trash can to the full, and we can have 5 bags instead of 3. And so I'm kind of wondering if that had anything to do with the you know, them talking to the waste management or to the waste companies, but is that why that happened?
We have spent, myself and another code officer took up this project, and we have spent a considerable amount of time speaking with a variety. And if you've ever tried to call Waste Connection or any of the trash services, you're in for a longer wait than you have with airlines. So we have really diligent, and I really do have to thank my colleague, a code officer, Futro. We both have been on the phone with multiple organizations to really try and help out our community and get some of this trash and debris and weeds. And, you know, people are at home cleaning, and so things are just accumulating and they need to leave. So yes, thank you for pointing that out, Rita. And I didn't realize that that had actually been implemented. So it's nice to hear that what they've said is going to happen is actually happening. So thank you.
Right. And I just want to thank you for doing that, because I mean, especially in the fall and the spring, 3 extra bags is not enough. So I appreciate you all doing that.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we did have board and commission interviews a week ago, Monday night, and we have tentatively appointed 2 new people to the board, a regular term member and also an alternate member. And I'm very excited. I think that they're going to be a great addition to the committee. So I think that'll help you out also as far as having a quorum when you need one. So
Yay.
And that will be, it'll be approved, I think, the first part of January, and the new term starts in February, I believe it is. So anyway, I just wanted you all to know that we have a couple people coming on board. So,
great.
And other than that, I don't have anything else right now.
Okay, any other questions for Council Member Council Liaison Rita? All right, thank you very much, Rita. Moving on to agenda item number 6, the subcommittee communications update. I don't know, Kara, if you're able, I know Monica's situation came up short notice for her, so I don't know if you guys have had a chance to talk.
Yeah, I got a brief update from her. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. So we had sent 3 versions of the article off to the copywriter. That was about a week ago. So she's still waiting to get a sort of revised or final product back to review. As soon as she gets that, she'll circulate it around to the group. It is an interview style article. Dave Lewis is our interviewee. So really excited about that. We did ask for a full page, so we'll see. I think it was kind of hard getting some information from them on word count and what specifically they were looking for. They asked for some revisions, but weren't very detailed. So we'll see what that comes back with. They have 3 versions to work with, so we'll see how that goes. And then other than that, I know Monica set up a meeting with Dave Lee and the communications division. However, with the recent COVID restrictions, her schedule with the school and everything, she wasn't able to make it, so she's got to reschedule that. But as soon as she gets information from that meeting, she'll inform the group.
Great,
So,
thank you.
that's all I have.
Any questions for Cara? All right. So that's it for communication subcommittee. New business. I wanted to add an agenda item under new business. Dave, you and I talked about presenting to City Council our yearly update. Is that something that's been scheduled? I haven't seen anything.
So I think there's a bit of confusion, and Maureen can touch on this when you guys get to the letter, as to how this needs to be communicated. I believe my understanding is that your council liaison would need to speak to the mayor or put this on the agenda on your behalf, and the city manager can do that on mine. But Rita, Councilmember Russell, I apologize for calling you by your first name. Councilmember Russell can can make that request and we can try and schedule that. And again, I don't know what the agenda setting process is looking like right now, but I think it's best for Councilmember Russell to make that request
Okay.
of the mayor and city manager to maybe have us do a co-annual presentation of our last year's statistics and what we worked on.
Okay. If I remember correctly, we did it about this time last year. It was right before we were put on hiatus.
Yeah,
So
I think so. I think that might have been a lapse on maybe our part, but they've also, council and maybe Councilmember Russell has some insight. There's been a lot of unusual things that are happening this year. And so I think a lot of things have been pushed out. And I think this one may have been something that has been put on the back burner, but I know your bylaws have an obligation to report once a year to council.
yes, that's correct. So I think the question comes to you, Councilmember Russell, is if, you know, our enabling legislation says we provide an update to city council once a year. And I think our term is up and we need to go before council. So the question for you is, when would you like to schedule us to do that?
So I can make the request. I don't know how full the study sessions are before the end of the year. It really is the mayor and the mayor pro tem and the city manager that set the agendas, but I can request. And so if you're interested in doing that, I will request that they put us on as soon as possible.
I don't know that we have anything urgent. You know, we just want to make sure that we, you know, we keep you all updated as to what we're doing and the progress we're making. So if you could address that and let us know, but again, I don't think we have anything burning that needs to move us up.
Okay, and I've made myself a note to bring that up to the mayor. And it might be better to wait till after the first of the year, till hopefully things are going to settle down after the first of the year, but we'll see. But I made myself a note and I will bring that up.
Okay, great, thank
And
you.
I'll also email the city manager just to let him know that this was discussed, just kind of as a side note. I can't make the request. I also too would recommend waiting till after the first of the year, only because I would have a complete picture of statistics that I would be able to present.
Okay, great, thank you. All right. All right, so any other new business that anyone would like to address? Okay, seeing none, then we'll move forward with agenda item number 8 on unfinished business. The first item is the updated bylaws, and in your agenda packet was the final document as we had redrafted it. And so tonight, I want to get feedback from everybody, and if it looks good, let's go ahead and approve it, and I'll sign it. And I think it just gets put in our binder. I don't think it goes anywhere, does it, Maureen? Okay, so did anyone have any, no, what's that, Maureen? We can't hear you.
It does not go anywhere but in a binder.
Got it, okay. So if we move to approve, or if we approve the bylaws tonight, then I sign it and it goes in the binder. Did anyone have any updates or changes or questions or edits to what our final document looked like? That was a lot of hard work, you guys. Thank you so much for all the time that you spent on reviewing that. And in terms of me signing it, Maureen, do you want me to come by, or can I electronically sign it? Is that your daughter?
That's my granddaughter. She's my little doppelganger. Say hi to everybody.
It looks like a mini me.
She does. She looks just like you.
It does.
Bye, honey. Have a good night. Love you. No, let's do an electronic signature. I'll find out how to do that from the clerks tomorrow and send it
Cool.
off to
Okay.
you.
Great, thank you. Gosh, you guys, that's just awesome. Thank you so much. Item number B, which
But
is.
Julie, You
Yes.
need to take a vote to approve the
Sorry, yes.
bylaws.
Thank you. Sorry. Do I need to move to vote? So can I please have a move to approve the bylaws as written?
Yes.
Is that Colleen and then Sonia? Is Sonia, you second? Great. Thank you so much. Those in favor of approving the bylaws, please raise your hand. And that would be a unanimous yes. Thank you. Those are approved as written, and we can now check that off. Wow. That's great. Item number B is the amendment letter that we sent to City Council. We had enough people last week. There were 4 of us on the call to draft the letter to City Council, and that went to the mayor this week. And so what happens next, Maureen?
The letter, I sent the letter off to the city manager's office because that's who I thought got it. But he emailed me back and it does not go to him. It was to go to council member Russell. So I sent it to the mayor, council member Russell this morning, I think, before noon. And the mayor just emailed me back at 6 o'clock this evening. I just checked the email asking for some more information. So I sent her the draft minutes, which you guys just approved. And I sent her the actual code.
Okay.
So I don't know what date it's being put on, but we were requesting December 7th, but December 7th is huge. So don't be surprised if that doesn't happen.
Okay.
I have a quick question on the letter. One thing that came up for me when I was reading through all the code is does it currently exclude pigs as pets?
Colleen, you could probably answer that, please.
Yeah, there's nothing about pets in the code that I can tell. There is some contradictory definitions, but there is a code that specifically prohibits livestock, and livestock is defined as horses, goats, sheep, pigs, and cattle.
Yeah, that's what I saw. I was wondering about.
Yeah, there's no language about pets, and I had a question about that because I thought, well, if his problem is he can't impound other animals for cruelty and neglect, whether they're prohibited or not, then I propose we just take the language out of dogs and cats, copy it, and put it into other animals. And I did add one little thing that I thought we could discuss, but I wasn't there to discuss it. And so it went by the wayside. But basing it on the domesticated animal thing, that there's no code that supports that definition. And that definition just suddenly appeared when you and I, because we're the only remaining members from the Code Advisory Committee from 2017, that was different then. And all of a sudden this other thing shows up, but there's no code to support it. But the code that mentions pigs prohibits them.
Dave, you had your hand up, Supervisor Lewis.
I was just going to explain what Colleen just eloquently explained to all of you all.
Okay. Thank you.
So Colleen, we deliberately left out the solution because it's animal code is so complicated, and we saw there were 3 different ways that code could be amended in support of impounding all animals that have been subjected to cruelty and neglect. So we decided to leave that open for the attorney's office to decide how to best handle that.
Well, I understand that, but I think it actually leaves it a little too open, because by even mentioning the domesticated animal thing and pets, it's going to require a whole bunch of definitions to be deleted, and dogs and cats substituted for pets. And then you're going to have to define pets in the definitions when it's just a matter of impounding, you know, if the language was just impounded, but it's done. So it's not, you know,
Yeah,
we'll see what they come up with.
code, it's too complicated. Kara?
Well, I was just gonna say, isn't that for the city attorney to figure
Yes.
out?
Yes.
Thank
Yes,
you.
it is. So another question, when we do get put on the agenda for city council, I don't recall, do we come as a committee to answer questions, Rita, or how does that work? I don't recall what we did with the snow ordinance.
And it's been a little while now since the snow ordinance. I really think there might have been just one or two of you. I think Chairman Walker was there at the time. Did you come with him also?
I did, but I think we were not on the agenda. We were just there in support in case some questions came up.
And
But it's,
that could
Yeah.
be. So I think it's, you know, if you're just coming forward, like you don't have anything specific, it probably would be good for the whole committee to come. And then, you know, just to get exposure to what's going on. And if anybody has anything to add, they could do that.
okay,
Whether it's in person or whether it's a Zoom
Right.
meeting.
okay. Cara, did you raise your hand? No one? Carson, did you have anything? I thought I saw something.
Yeah. I guess I still just didn't get the Supervisor Lewis, is it your understanding that currently someone is allowed to have like a pot-bellied pig? Is there a law against that?
So there is a law about the potbelly pig. So it's outright prohibited. The concern, and we're talking about one specific case. So I want to make sure that we broaden this. In this particular circumstance, which led to our policy changes, we could not impound this. We impounded the animal based off of cruelty and neglect. We can't impound an animal because it's outright prohibited. That we have to, they get a summons to court just like anybody else, and the judge has to order it removed.
I
So
see. That
that's what
helps
led
me
to
understand. Thank you.
the domino of all these other animals. And we only talked about the pig that day, but just so you all know it, we've not taken in turkeys, chickens, snakes, bearded dragons, a variety of
Right.
different reptiles, tortoise. Like we have ferrets. We have a whole list of animals that we have not impounded because of cruelty and neglect. Rats. We had a whole rat breeding facility in Inglewood where we had to hand count over 3,000 rats. That's for another day. But they were cruelty. It was cruelty and neglect, and we couldn't. Not that I'm going to save all these little rats because they were feeder rats, but we had to impound them there and do periodic checks on them to make sure they're still being cared for. So some of the things that we have, and again, maybe I'll give you some case highlights in the future if that's what you ask on some of our unusual cases, but we did have a rat breeding facility in the city of Inglewood, and we had to get the state involved. It was a very complicated case. It actually made it through a whole review at the state level where we had to present how we worked to solve this problem so that other officers could learn from it. So it was quite an interesting case.
Thank you.
And thank you for getting rid of taking care of the rats. Ooh. All right, so are there any other questions or comments about our amendment request to the city council? At this point, we'll be waiting to see when we get put on the agenda, and then from there, we'll figure out how we present that and address the questions that may arise. All right, so we are now going to turn back to our tree ordinance. So this is something that we started earlier this year, and we spent a great amount of time to understand what the emerald ash borer issue was. Dave Lee from, he's not with Parks and Rec anymore. I don't think he is. but he is. Okay, so he is responsible for the city's Emerald Ash Borer program or a project, and it only covers city-owned trees. It does not cover trees that are on residents' property. And so that's what our task was to review Inglewood Code to understand if it is ready for handling a mass infestation and the destruction of the trees. And we want to make sure that the code is written in a way that the city can support residents and protect the community. So we also, in addition to understanding the issue and realizing that it was up to us to make sure code was up to date and ready for this infestation, we researched other cities and what other cities had been doing in terms of their emerald ash borer, preparation, and then also what their codes were in terms of tree ordinances. And I believe we had 6 cities, and we each took 2 cities and dug into research and then shared those results with each other. The third thing that was done is the city attorney had made an initial pass at updates to the tree code that needed to be made in addition to any emerald ash borer updates that we wanted to make. So all those documents, I've taken those and put them on a shared Google Drive so that you all have access to those. And just like we did the bylaws, we can use this as a central repository. But since Colleen and Carson and I were the only ones that were on the committee at the time, and Colleen and Carson, forgive me for making you step backwards a little bit, but I really wanted to bring all the other members up to date so you could see what work had been done and could educate yourself on what the materials are. So I thought what I would do is give you an overview of our current tree code ordinance. And then I can show you the edits where the edits from the city attorney are. And then I can show you the document that summarizes the research that we did in other cities, and you can see members' comments in terms of what we could be doing. So that's where it was left. We were getting ready. We had done our background research, and we were getting ready to then start discussing what changes we should be making or we wanted to make to the code in preparation of this. So Carson or Colleen, did you have any other things you'd like to add to what we had done?
I would just say that it might be worth listening to our meeting where he came and gave us the presentation originally and told us about it, because we all asked a lot of questions and he gave us a ton of good info. So that might be worth listening to.
Okay, and I was trying to, I think it was in the fall.
Yeah. I mean, it was right after I started.
Okay. When did you start?
Yeah, the end of last year. Sometime.
Okay. So it might have been in January. Colleen?
Yeah. We had started discussing this, long before the emerald ash borer came up. And those comments from the city attorney had nothing to do with what we were discussing on 11-5-8. And honestly, I think it's been so long, it's been almost 2 years since she gave us those, that I think it's better if we just go with a fresh look at what we were wanting to do and adding to it. And I had presented before Dave Lee came and talked to us, an updated analysis and suggestions. And I know that you put those in the comments on the PDF document, but it's very difficult to look at what the city attorney did and figure that out, because generally, like what we did with the snow and ice, we took the code and we made suggestions as to what needed to be done, specifically adding to it. And then when the city council decided, yeah, we should make these changes, they told the city attorney to work with us in the committee to iron out some detail. And she came to us and she agreed that we should do it in the violations bureau, not under the general penalties.
Are you talking about the snow ordinance or the tree?
No, I'm talking about what she decided was policy
Okay.
under it and the way we should approach it. So generally, what we're supposed to do, according to our bylaws, is to make our suggestions to the city council. Once the city council decides whether our suggestions have merit or not, they direct the city attorney to come back to us and work with us. So I think it's better if we, because her suggestions had nothing to do with what we were trying to do 2 years ago, and definitely have nothing to do with and may hinder what we're trying to do now. And then she may have changed her mind. I think we should just go with code as it is and make our suggestions.
Okay.
And because it's very hard to read them in the PDF document. It's hard to determine what she wants to change, what they wanted to change 2 years ago. And we had pretty much approved the list of suggestions that I had made. And I do have that document I can send to you to add to this.
Okay, yeah, I think I probably have it, but if you have it within reach, it would save me time digging through.
I not only have it within reach, but I updated it just a little bit.
Okay.
Because we were pretty well, because of what the city attorney had said when we were doing the ice and snow, that we should be changing an awful lot of these things out of the general penalty and into the violations bureau and encourage citizens and give them assistance. But I noticed that there were some redlined comments in red and underlined. So I'm assuming they're additions from the city attorney that they want to make it a $2,650 fine and be very punitive and so I would just suggest that we ignore what happened 2 years ago and go just directly with what we think the code needs changes on. Particularly, there's this one section, there's 2 sections reserved about the city forester. They eliminated everything about the city forester, and we have some suggestions in this that could go in there. So we should just say, hey, if we're going to do a temporary city forester position with this goal in mind, here's the code, that where the code can be reasserted.
Colleen, thank you. I hear you. I think that's a great idea, especially considering that we want everybody at this point to understand what the current code is. So I will post a clean document up there that compiles all the tree code into one place so everyone can see it. And then I'll also include the document that you sent me so everyone has access to it. I don't intend that we'll be talking about those changes today. What I wanted to do was share the background with everybody and then give the time between now and our next meeting for everyone to review that and kind of get their arms around it. Cara?
Hi, sorry, I have a question that's not so much code specific, but I know like a year ago, the city did a program where you could do like a rebate for upgrading egress windows. Is it not possible to explore some sort of program in this scenario to actually get citizens to mitigate the problem for the ash borer?
I think
I don't know how the
that's up
program
to us
got
to recommend it.
implemented.
I think
Yeah,
that's up to us to recommend it. So,
Okay.
and we have the support and guidance of not only Supervisor Lewis, but also Dave Lee, who really understands the issue.
Yeah, I imagine the program from a year ago for the egress windows was probably something under planning and zoning. I'm honestly not sure, but I know there was a program through the city where you could, submit for, a rebate basically to get that upgraded. And if we applied it to the situation with the trees and actually, use it as an incentive to get people to mitigate this problem, they might be more inclined to do so.
Colleen?
Yeah, that was excellent because that's one of the things we agreed on. It was number 7 on the suggestions that were approved. Consider putting something in the ordinance that would encourage property owners to remove dangerous, diseased, dead or dying trees to help them avoid huge amounts to manage tree pruning and or removal if necessary. After all, Title 16 does say the city encourages tree preservation, not just prohibited trees. And we had made the suggestion, council could consider making contracts with tree removal services and arborists that would give homeowners with mature trees in the easements or adjacent to easements or in unfortunate or dangerous to property adjacent areas, some discount or help with maintaining and or removing trees. And so it's there and it's an excellent suggestion, but I just wanted to let you know that that egress window thing was specifically for flood victims, and it never went anywhere because it actually made the situation worse. It didn't solve the problem of flood.
So a good idea in theory. I guess, Colleen, you seem to know the most. If we wanted to do a program or suggest something like that, does that come from our group, or like, how does that work?
We can make the suggestion and it's up to council to decide whether or not to do it. I mean, They could do it by a resolution. They could do it by actually putting it into code, or they could do a temporary code, with a sunset provision. As long as we've got the emerald ash borer problem and we've got all these horrible weed trees that we mistakenly allowed in the city and now we need to get rid of them, say a 5-year program with a city forester and allocate resources to help citizens do this, because it's very expensive to get rid of a 60-foot tall cottonwood that's you can't put your arms around,
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And the budgetary constraints of COVID. So
we'll get to you in a minute, Sonia. Dave, you had your hand raised.
I just want to, I know you guys are talking about a process. I love these ideas you guys are coming up with. Cara, you are correct. City Council actually approved a permit waiver for anybody that was having egress windows done. I know of multiple people. It wasn't just flood victims. It was anybody in the city of Inglewood, and I believe it expires in December 31st. I don't know if Councilmember Russell remembers.
That's what it was. Yeah.
Anybody that applied for those permits to have egress windows done, which is costly for that permit, it was authorized through City Council to waive that. And I think it was a unanimous decision. And I know of a lot of community members that did take advantage of that, especially hearing the concerns that did take place on that day. I know full well the tragedy that took place that day.
Cara?
Oh, no, I didn't have anything else. That's the one I was thinking of. Sorry.
Okay,
Thanks.
Sonia? You had your hand raised?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, good. I was talking to one of my friends, and she works for the city of Denver as their 311 arborist. And she was telling me that the mindset is to try to get their citizens on the plan. Do you want to save the tree, or will you need to cut down your tree? And then she always likes to let people, I was asking her, what are the biggest questions? Everyone wants to know, is it in our city yet? And for Denver, it's not.
Right.
It hasn't arrived. And then people want to know about the treatment plans, and that they usually can do the root injections for about $99, and it's for 3 years, and you have to maintain it for the life of the tree. And then she also likes to remind people that there are multiple types of borers that already live here. So if you see boring in your trees, the most common one is the lilac ash borer. And so just like getting people educated of what the bugs look like, what the markings look like the lilac ash borer, if it's gonna infect your tree, it's gonna only kill a limb or two. It's not gonna kill the whole tree. So it's more of mindset of getting everyone ready for a situation.
Right.
But
And the city of Denver has done a really good job. I think it's Mind Your Ash, something like that. I can't remember.
yes.
And then their website is very comprehensive. That the one thing that all the cities have done is education, and then there's a step-by-step process in preparation. And one is to understand if you have an ash tree, and then if you do have an ash tree, then you've got to make some decisions. And we've talked about an article that got cut that was supposed to go out 2 issues ago. And I think that's the next article that we're going to ask, if I recall, to run in the magazine. And we also haven't, Monica had also had a suggestion that we get that in the newspaper, our Englewood newspaper. And it goes through those steps, Sonia. And we base that off of what Denver had done. We figured there's no reason to reinvent the wheel if cities have already thought through this. But the number one thing is know if you have an ash tree, and then what do you do from there? And then there's all kinds of paths to take from there, and that article addresses it. Colleen?
Yeah, just to follow up on that, I don't like to give praise to Boulder for anything, but they did do a very, very good job of trying to educate their people. And they've got a huge program and are helping their citizens take care of the trees. And they instituted, they even have a special disposal area because people were cutting down the diseased trees and throwing them in the creek, and it got spread all over. So there's a special way it can be done, and they've been giving them a lot of help, and they do videos, and people can sign up to volunteer to help their neighborhood. And it's a really strong educational program. They've got videos going all the time. I don't like a lot of their things, they're really nasty in a lot of ways, but they did do a really good job of promoting how to take care of this. And they've managed to save their public trees. They managed to save 6,000 of them so far. They had 12,000 and they're able to save 6. But one of the things that Dave said, and I've gotten verification from a number of arborists and tree service people, is that the big thing on ash trees is that if they're between 10 inches in diameter, and I believe it's 24 inches, they're most likely to be, if they're healthy to begin with, they can be saved through inoculation. But the very large trees and the very small trees and any tree that's not been taken care of should come down immediately before they get infected and replanted. And that's not in our article, but back to that article, I did ask, since we couldn't get it in to the next issue, I asked Monica to please ask if we could do an insert of your article, like just staple it in the middle, and a letter that can be returned to the city. Some way we could go out and pick it up or get franking privileges or something to get people interested in this subject and have them respond either online or by phone calls in order to, get people going on this issue.
Yeah, this is exciting because we really have an opportunity to make a difference for Englewood in anticipation of the infestation. I do believe we heard from Dave Lee that it has made it to Louisville. hence Boulder's more aggressive approach because it hasn't made it here. Chris Harguth, who heads up the communications team before COVID, kind of derailed everything, wanted to do a visual of a map that showed, you know, that this was coming at us so that people understood that we have an opportunity right now to address it before it gets here. So I took the article and I put it on that shared drive that I sent you a link to, if you would like to read that. But if there's not any more comments, what I'd like to do is go ahead and walk you through the documents that we do have, and then give everybody an opportunity to review those things before our next meeting, and we can address that. But I am excited about it because there is no lack of resources or ideas on this team. So I'm really excited about what we can come up with. And I think what you'll see is that we have an opportunity to shore up our tree code so that the city can support residents and help where it's needed. Any other comments before I get started?
Just one thing. I know that it's in Westminster, which is
Oh.
even further than Louisville.
Oh, shoot. So anyway, so that's our task. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen.
Yeah, Broomfield and Westminster. It's confirmed.
Oh, this is it. Okay. All right. So are you all able to see my screen? It has 4 documents here. This is the Google Drive that I sent you a link to. And there's just 4 documents right now. But what I thought I would do is share with you how we got started was just by reviewing ourselves, you know, what our current code looks like. So, it was about a year ago that we started doing this. So what I'd like to do is walk you through that. So there's really, Title 11 has 2 different areas. One is on trees and shrubs, and the other one is on rights of way. So trees and shrubs, it's actually property owner requirements for rights of way, preservation and removal under special improvement districts, and then prohibited acts and conditions. So you can see we have the framework here to get started and put together, you know, a pretty comprehensive code that addresses this. Then there's also in Title 12, and basically I did a search on trees for our code. There is an area where cable TV comes in and damages our trees when they do their work, and there's a requirement that they replace those. So we'll want to look at that because we don't want them to replace trees or shrubs with ash trees, although those are currently prohibited. And then Title 16, this is unified. This is where our development code resides. And there are some things that we need to look at because there's a site improvement plan that would include landscape. There's also development standards for landscaping and screening, telecommunications in terms of landscaping around towers, and then subdivision design improvements and dedication standards, protection of existing vegetation and natural features. So basically what this presentation does is it outlines the areas where we have tree code existing in our Englewood code. Are there any comments or questions? It's pretty confined. And then I do believe we I was thinking that we had, okay. So this is the code that I was talking about, that Colleen and I were talking about. That was just an overview. This is the actual code itself. The comments in red are from the city attorney. And I think it's a great idea that Colleen suggested that I take those out right now so that you all can just read what's existing. So I'll do that after the call. The comments on the right-hand side, I believe those were the comments that you provided, Colleen.
Yeah, they're not as complete as I would like them, and I wanted to update a few of them, but yeah, they're pretty much the same.
Okay.
But I think they need to be not be comments. I mean, you know, like on the side like that, because it's hard to find and it doesn't make a lot of sense.
So what I'll do is I'll replace this with a clean copy without any comments at all, and then we'll start with that. So I'm not going to go through this with you right now, but it is on that Google Drive, and I just wanted you to see our thought process. We did the overview, then we took all the code and put it in one document, and then started compiling all our comments there. Colleen's suggestion to bring it back to no edits, I think will help everybody read and understand what we currently have there. I am going to leave the document on the drive in case you would like to look at that. And then the third document is the research that we did with all the other cities. And so each of us took a couple of cities and then we presented to each other what we learned. And then we had some overall insights. So you can see we covered Lafayette, Broomfield, Boulder, Longmont. I think there was one more. And the comments in green are the comments, and then we covered Denver, that's right. And the comments in green are the thoughts of the person that did the research, so that you could see what they saw in reviewing that material. Any comments or questions on what that contains? It's pretty interesting. And then the fourth document that I'm sharing with you, Sonia, this is what we were talking about, the article that we were supposed to run earlier this year. I put that in there so you could see, what approach we were starting to take, which is what is determining whether or not you have ash trees. And then the second step is preemptive strategies. And so and we direct everyone to this Colorado State Forest Service fact sheet has all the, we don't want to restate what others have already done. So we were directing people to the resources, the official resources, like the Colorado State Forest Service. So anyway, so I thought that would be helpful because that kind of summarized the approach that we were having in terms of starting to educate the people, or our residents, on what the issue is. And so I think my action item is I'll upload a clean copy of our existing code for everybody. So that was it from me in terms of EAB. I would like to encourage the other members, Carson and Colleen or Dave, do you have anything you'd like to share, Dave?
So I just sent Julie and Carson link to the Forestry Service map. They have uploaded new data, and I am, I hate to say this, but it's now within 14 miles of our city center.
Yeah.
Probably here.
So
Yeah,
I don't know
I was
if you
just
want to share that with all the members if they haven't looked at that recently.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just looking at it too. And I also sent you an email, Julie, with a link to the form they have posted on the Colorado Department of Agriculture site for
Okay.
reporting identifications of seeing
Okay.
it.
Great. And all those sites too have suggestions on, how do I determine if I even have an ash tree? And so they have detailed instructions on how to identify an ash tree, and then they go into next steps from there. So we have a lot of resources available to us to make, put together a pretty solid program for Englewood. Any other comments or questions? So what I would like to ask everybody to do is to review these documents before our next meeting. And then I think we'll probably, at our next meeting, start talking about ideas. Is there anything else you suggest, Carson?
Oh, I was just going to ask Councilmember Russell, I know you've done mitigation on, I think, a couple ash trees, or how are yours doing?
So far they're doing very well. And it's not been overly expensive. I want to say it cost us $105 this last year. One of the trees is probably less than 8 inches in diameter. The other one is probably over 20 inches in diameter, and it's a pretty tall tree. So we haven't had any trouble. The squirrels are more of a problem than the ash borer. So but it does work. The treatments have, so. Well, and
I was
we've overall
walking with,
known it actually gets here, right?
Right. But it hasn't hurt your trees.
No,
Treatments.
no.
Cool. Thank you.
I have one of my neighbors, I just noticed they had a tree trimming company and they were doing a lot of work to a tree that, like you said, like your tree, Rita, it was probably 20 to 24 inches in diameter, a good 3 stories tall. And they were doing some pretty aggressive pruning. So I went and asked them, and they had been hired to come in and try to save this ash tree in anticipation of the emerald ash borer. And I had no idea how she even knew about it, but the tree looks beautiful now. And I do think they were applying a treatment to it. So we do have some people, you know, especially from a visual perspective, that we can, you know, cite examples of residents and some of the things that they have done. And these are the types of things that Chris Harguth had suggested is, you know, it's a combination of shoring up our code, communicating to the community what the issue is, and then seeing if there's things that we can do from the city's perspective collectively to help our residents. All right. If there are no other comments, the next item on our agenda is to set up our next meeting, which, oh my goodness, is December. And that would be the 16th of December. Does that work for everyone? Awesome. I don't know that I've ever ended a meeting 45 minutes early. I feel like I should dance. I should dance or something. All right. Maureen, did you have anything you wanted to add?
I do not.
Okay, otherwise, everyone have a very safe and happy Thanksgiving, even if you can't really celebrate. So thank you all for your hard work. We're making great progress. Appreciate it.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Good night,
Bye, all.
guys.
Thanksgiving.